Lily's stomach grumbled, a loud, embarrassing sound in the quiet afternoon. She was used to the feeling, the gnawing emptiness that seemed to be her constant companion. Her clothes, patched and faded, hung loosely on her small frame, a testament to the lack of food at home. Mama did her best, but work was scarce, and Lily was often sent out to forage for anything edible. Today, her search had led her to the edge of Farmer Silas's property. She knew she shouldn't be there, but the scent of apples, even rotten ones, was too tempting to ignore. Near the weathered wooden barn, a pile of discarded apples lay rotting in the sun. Most were bruised and worm-eaten, but Lily carefully sorted through them, searching for pieces that were still somewhat good. She found one that was only bruised on one side. She brushed off the dirt as best she could on her already dirty skirt and took a small bite. Tasted sour and mushy, but it was food. She ate it slowly, savoring each small mouthful. Another apple had a large wormhole, but around the hole the apple still looked relatively intact. She broke off a piece and ate it. It was not good, but it was something. Her eyes scanned the ground, searching for another slightly less rotten apple. She found one and started to pick at it. She knew it wasn't ideal, but hunger was a powerful motivator. She ate another piece and another. The barn loomed large and gray against the horizon. Its wood was weathered and cracked, telling tales of countless storms and seasons. The paint, once a bright red, was now peeling and faded, like an old memory. A few missing planks revealed glimpses of the hay bales stacked inside. It had been a sturdy, dependable structure in its prime, but time had taken its toll. Silas, the owner of the barn and the surrounding farm, was much like his barn old, weathered, and a little lonely. His wife, Martha, had passed away the previous spring, and the farm felt empty without her laughter and her gentle touch. He still went through the motions of farming, tending to his small vegetable garden and the few chickens he kept, but his heart wasn't really in it anymore. The days stretched long and silent, filled only with the rustling of leaves and the distant crowing of a rooster. He missed Martha's stories, her warm smile, and the way she always knew how to make him feel better. He often found himself sitting on the porch, watching the sunset, remembering happier times. He missed her cooking and the smell of her baking bread. The house felt empty and cold now, no matter how many fires he lit in the hearth. Lily hesitated, another bite of the soft apple halfway to her mouth. She knew these apples weren't good for her. Mama had warned her about eating rotten fruit, saying it could make her sick. But the hunger pangs were so insistent, so demanding, that they drowned out the warning. She glanced around nervously, half expecting someone to chase her away. Still she ate. Unbeknownst to Lily, Silas had been watching her from the shadows of the barn door. He'd been meaning to fix that door for weeks now, but somehow he never got around to it. From his vantage point, he could see the small girl carefully picking through the discarded apples, her thin frame casting a long shadow in the afternoon sun. He saw her hesitate, saw the conflict in her eyes before she took another bite. He could tell she was hungry, truly hungry, the kind of hunger that gnawed at your insides and made you forget everything else. He watched her eat, a mixture of pity and concern welling up inside him. He remembered a time long ago when he himself had known that kind of hunger. It was a feeling he wouldn't wish on anyone, especially not a child. He leaned against the barn door, his heart aching for the little girl. The sight of Lily, so small and vulnerable, picking through the refuse, stirred something deep within Silas. He remembered his own childhood, a time of hardship and scarcity. His family had struggled to make ends meet, and there were days when food was scarce. He recalled the gnawing emptiness in his belly, the weakness that made it hard to concentrate in school. He remembered his mother's worried face as she tried to stretch their meager rations to feed her family. He had, on more than one occasion, resorted to eating scraps and leftovers, anything to quell the hunger. He knew the shame and desperation that came with it, the feeling of being less than, of being invisible. Those memories, long buried beneath years of relative comfort, now resurfaced with startling clarity. He saw himself in Lily, a reflection of his younger self, struggling to survive. He felt a surge of compassion for her, a deep-seated need to help ease her suffering. He couldn't stand by and watch her eat those rotten apples, knowing the potential harm they could cause. He knew he had to do something, anything, to offer her some comfort and relief. The memory of his own mother's kindness in the face of adversity fueled his resolve. He would not let this child go hungry if he could help it. Silas pushed himself away from the barn door, his joints creaking in protest. He walked slowly towards Lily, his movements stiff and deliberate. The air had a slight chill, and he was wearing his old, worn wool coat. As he approached Lily, he reached up and unbuttoned it. He slipped it off his shoulders, holding it out to her. The coat was large and bulky, and it smelled faintly of wood smoke and earth, a familiar and comforting scent. "Here," he said, his voice raspy but gentle. "You look cold." Lily stopped eating, her eyes wide with surprise and a hint of fear. She stared at Silas, unsure of his intentions. He was a large man, and she didn't know him. He could be angry that she was on his property, stealing his apples. Silas knelt down, bringing himself closer to her level. He offered the coat again, a reassuring smile on his face. "It's all right, little one," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." He paused. Then, with a sincerity that reached his eyes, he spoke the words that would change everything. "Come in, eat with me." Lily's heart pounded in her chest like a trapped bird. She didn't know what to do. Her first instinct was to run, to disappear back into the woods and never return. But her legs felt heavy, and her stomach was still rumbling fiercely. She looked at Silas, really looked at him. His face was lined with wrinkles, a roadmap of a life lived outdoors. His hands were calloused and rough, but his eyes were kind. They were the color of warm honey, and they held no hint of anger or malice, only a gentle sadness. She searched his gaze, trying to decipher his intentions. Was this a trick? Was he going to scold her? Or worse, she had heard stories of farmers who were cruel to trespassers. But something in Silas's eyes told her that he was different. They were the eyes of someone who had known hardship, someone who understood what it was like to be hungry and alone. She saw a flicker of something else in his eyes, too, a deep well of loneliness. It was as if he was reaching out to her, not just with his words, but with his soul. Slowly, cautiously, she reached out and touched the edge of his coat. The wool felt rough against her skin, but it was also warm and inviting. She looked back up at Silas, her eyes questioning. He simply smiled, a small, encouraging smile that eased her fear. She decided to trust him. Silas led Lily towards the farmhouse, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. She kept her head down, still a little nervous, but her stomach was definitely looking forward to whatever awaited her inside. As they stepped through the back door, a wave of warmth washed over Lily, chasing away the chill that had settled in her bones. The kitchen was small but cozy, filled with a comforting clutter of everyday objects. Sunlight streamed through the window above the sink, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. A large, wooden table sat in the center of the room, covered with a checkered tablecloth. A kettle whistled merrily on the stove, and the air was thick with the inviting aromas of fresh-baked bread and simmering stew. It smelled like Mama's kitchen used to smell, before things got so hard. Pots and pans hung from a rack above the stove, gleaming in the light. Jars filled with colorful spices lined the shelves, adding splashes of color to the otherwise muted tones of the room. A rocking chair sat near the fireplace, its cushions plump and inviting. It looked like the perfect spot for reading a book on a cold winter's day. The whole room felt like a warm hug, a haven from the cold, harsh world outside. Lily had never been in such a cozy and inviting place before. She felt a sense of peace she hadn't known was possible. Silas gestured for Lily to sit at the table. He ladled a generous portion of the stew into a bowl and placed it in front of her. The stew was thick and hearty, filled with chunks of tender beef, carrots, and potatoes. He also set down a thick slice of freshly baked bread, still warm from the oven. The aroma alone made Lily's mouth water. She looked at the food, almost afraid to touch it. It had been so long since she had eaten a proper meal. Silas smiled at her encouragingly. "Go on, child," he said gently. "Eat your fill." Lily picked up her spoon and took a small, tentative bite. Her eyes widened in surprise. It was the most delicious thing she had ever tasted. The stew was savory and flavorful, and the bread was soft and slightly sweet. She ate slowly at first, savoring each bite, but as her hunger grew, she began to eat more quickly. She ate with a quiet intensity, focusing all her attention on the food. She didn't want to miss a single morsel. It was more than just food. It was warmth, comfort, and a feeling of being cared for. She finished the bowl of stew and tore off another piece of bread, dipping it into the remaining gravy. She felt a sense of contentment she hadn't experienced in a long time. Her stomach was full, and her heart felt a little lighter. With her belly full and the warmth of the kitchen surrounding her, Lily felt brave enough to talk. Silas, sensing her willingness to open up, simply listened, his gaze gentle and encouraging. He didn't press her, didn't interrupt, just offered a silent presence that made her feel safe. Hesitantly, Lily began to tell him about her family. She spoke of her mama, who worked tirelessly to provide for her and her younger brother. She told him about the small, leaky house they lived in on the edge of town, and how they often went to bed hungry. She explained that her papa had left a long time ago to find work, but they hadn't heard from him since. She described the struggles they faced each day, the constant worry about money and food. She spoke of the kindness of their neighbors, who sometimes shared what little they had. She told him about her dreams of going to school and learning to read, but how that seemed impossible given their circumstances. Silas listened patiently, his heart aching for the little girl and her family. He nodded occasionally, offering a small smile or a word of encouragement. He understood the weight of her words, the burden of poverty and hardship that she carried on her young shoulders. He knew that simply listening was often the greatest gift he could give. After Lily had finished speaking, a comfortable silence settled over the kitchen. Silas cleared his throat, a wistful smile gracing his lips. "You know," he said softly, "you remind me a lot of Martha, my wife." He paused, his gaze drifting towards a framed photograph on the mantelpiece. "She always had a soft spot for those in need. We never had much ourselves, but we always made sure to share what we had with others." He began to share stories of his life with Martha. He told Lily about their early days on the farm, the hard work and the simple joys. He spoke of Martha's kindness and generosity, her unwavering belief in helping those less fortunate. He recounted tales of feeding hungry travelers who passed by their farm, offering shelter to those caught in storms, and always having a kind word for anyone who needed it. He described how Martha would bake extra bread each week to give to the poor families in town, and how she would knit warm scarves and mittens for the children in the winter. He explained that helping others was simply a part of who they were, a way of life that brought them both immense satisfaction. He wanted Lily to know that his invitation wasn't unusual. It was a reflection of the values he and Martha had shared. Feeling grateful for Silas's kindness, Lily offered to help with the chores. She knew what it was like to work hard, and she wanted to show her appreciation. Silas, initially hesitant, eventually agreed. He wasn't used to having help around the house, and his old bones weren't as spry as they used to be. Lily started by clearing the table, carefully stacking the plates and bowls. Then, she helped Silas wash the dishes, her small hands surprisingly efficient. She dried the dishes with a clean towel, placing them neatly back in the cupboard. Silas watched her, a warm smile on his face. It felt good to have someone helping him, to have a little life back in the house. Next, Lily helped Silas sweep the kitchen floor, chasing away the dust bunnies that had gathered in the corners. She even offered to set the table for supper, carefully arranging the silverware and placing a napkin beside each plate. Silas chuckled, amused by her attention to detail. It had been a long time since anyone had bothered to set the table properly. He realized how much he had missed these small, everyday routines. Lily's presence was filling a void he hadn't even realized was there. As they finished cleaning up, the sky outside began to darken ominously. The wind howled, rattling the windows, and the first fat raindrops splattered against the glass. A storm was brewing. Silas peered out the window, his brow furrowed with concern. "Looks like we're in for a rough one," he said, his voice barely audible above the rising wind. "That's a proper thunderstorm coming." Lily, who had been watching the approaching storm with a mixture of fascination and apprehension, suddenly felt a pang of worry. She knew Mama would be concerned if she didn't come home, but the thought of walking through the storm-lashed woods filled her with dread. Silas seemed to sense her fear. He turned to her, his eyes filled with genuine concern. "It's too dangerous to go out in this weather, child," he said gently. "Why don't you stay the night? We have a spare room upstairs. It's not fancy, but it's warm and dry." Lily hesitated. She had never stayed away from home before, but the thought of the storm raging outside and the warmth and safety of Silas's kitchen made her decision easier. She looked up at Silas, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Are you sure?" she asked softly. Silas smiled reassuringly. "Of course I'm sure," he said. "It would give me great comfort to know you were safe and sound here, out of the storm." Silas led Lily upstairs to the spare room. It was small and simply furnished, with a narrow bed, a small wooden dresser, and a window overlooking the garden. The sheets on the bed were clean and smelled faintly of lavender, a scent that reminded Lily of her grandmother. Silas had placed a small oil lamp on the dresser, casting a warm, golden glow around the room. "I hope you'll be comfortable here," he said, his voice soft. "There are extra blankets in the dresser if you get cold." Lily thanked him, her voice barely a whisper. She felt a sense of gratitude so profound that it was almost overwhelming. Silas smiled and quietly closed the door, leaving her alone. Lily changed into the clean nightgown that Silas had provided, feeling a strange sense of peace wash over her. She slipped into bed, pulling the covers up to her chin. The mattress was soft and comfortable, unlike the straw-filled tick she slept on at home. The storm raged outside, the wind howling and the rain lashing against the windows, but inside the room, it was warm and quiet. Exhausted from the day's events, and filled with a sense of safety and security she hadn't felt in a long time, Lily closed her eyes. For the first time in what seemed like forever, she drifted off to sleep quickly and easily. She slept soundly through the night, undisturbed by the storm, dreaming of warm kitchens, kind faces, and endless bowls of stew. It was the best sleep she had had in years. Lily awoke to the smell of sizzling bacon and the cheerful chirping of birds. The storm had passed, leaving behind a clear, sunny morning. She stretched, feeling refreshed and energized, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a very long time. She quickly dressed and headed downstairs, following the enticing aroma. She found Silas in the kitchen, humming a tuneless melody as he busied himself at the stove. He turned as she entered, his face lighting up with a warm smile. "Good morning, sleepyhead," he said cheerfully. "I hope you slept well." Lily nodded, her eyes wide with appreciation. "Yes, sir, I did. Thank you." Silas gestured towards the table, which was laden with a feast fit for a king. There were fluffy scrambled eggs, crispy bacon, golden brown pancakes drizzled with maple syrup, and a bowl of fresh fruit. He had even set out a glass of milk and a small pitcher of orange juice. "I thought you might be hungry after your long sleep," he said, chuckling. "Dig in." Lily's eyes widened in disbelief. She had never seen so much food in one place before. She took a seat at the table and began to eat, savoring every bite. The breakfast was delicious, and she ate with gusto, her hunger finally satisfied. Silas watched her, his heart filled with contentment. It warmed him to see her enjoying the food, her face glowing with happiness. As Lily finished the last bite of her pancakes, a thought occurred to her. She had enjoyed helping Silas with the chores the previous day, and she had felt a sense of purpose she hadn't experienced in a long time. She also knew that Silas could probably use the help, and she was eager to earn her keep. She looked up at Silas, her eyes shining with hope. "Mr. Silas," she said hesitantly, "I was wondering, Would it be all right if I came back sometime to help you again? I like helping with the chores, and I'm a hard worker. She held her breath, waiting for his response. She knew she was asking a lot, and she wouldn't be offended if he said no. But deep down, she desperately hoped that he would agree. She had found a sense of belonging in his kitchen, a sense of connection that she craved. Silas smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. He had been hoping she would ask. He had enjoyed her company, and he had appreciated her help with the chores. The house had felt less empty with her around, and he had found himself looking forward to her presence. "Why, Lily," he said warmly. "I would be delighted to have you come back and help me. I could certainly use the extra hands, and I enjoy your company very much. You're welcome here any time." True to his word, Silas welcomed Lily back with open arms. She started coming to the farm several times a week, always eager to lend a hand. She helped with the gardening, planting seeds, and weeding the rows of vegetables. She fed the chickens and collected their eggs. She mended fences and cleaned out the barn. Silas taught her about farming, sharing his knowledge and experience. He showed her how to identify different plants, how to care for the animals, and how to predict the weather. Lily was a quick learner, and she absorbed everything he taught her with enthusiasm. But more than just helping with the chores, Lily kept Silas company. She told him stories about her life, about her mama and her little brother. She listened patiently as he reminisced about Martha, sharing memories of their life together. She brought laughter and light back into his life, filling the void that had been left by Martha's passing. The farm came alive again with Lily's presence. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of baking bread and simmering stew. The garden was bursting with color. The house was filled with laughter and the sound of happy chatter. Silas felt a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. He was no longer just an old, lonely farmer. He was a mentor, a friend, and a companion. As the seasons passed, Lily and Silas's relationship deepened. It was more than just friendship. It was something special, something akin to family. Silas became a father figure to Lily, offering her guidance, support, and unconditional love. He taught her valuable life lessons, not just about farming, but about kindness, compassion, and the importance of helping others. Lily, in turn, filled a void in Silas's heart that had been empty since Martha's passing. She brought youth and energy into his life, reminding him of the joys of simple things. She listened to his stories with rapt attention, laughed at his jokes, and offered him a companionship that he had sorely missed. Over time, they developed a bond that resembled that of a grandfather and granddaughter. Lily started calling Silas Grandpa Silas, a term of endearment that warmed his heart. He, in turn, treated her like the granddaughter he never had, spoiling her with small gifts and showering her with affection. They celebrated holidays together, decorating the house with festive decorations and baking special treats. They read stories together by the fireplace on cold winter nights. They went for walks in the garden, admiring the beauty of nature. They shared their hopes and dreams, their fears and anxieties. They became each other's family, a source of comfort and strength in a world that could often be harsh and unforgiving. The story of Lily and Silas is a testament to the power of kindness and the beauty of unexpected friendships. It shows how a simple act of compassion, like offering a coat and a meal, can have a profound impact on someone's life, changing its course in ways that no one could have predicted. Silas's initial act of generosity not only provided Lily with nourishment and shelter, but also sparked a connection that transformed both of their lives. He gave her a sense of belonging and purpose, while she filled the void in his heart left by his late wife. Their friendship blossomed in an unlikely place, amidst hardship and loneliness. It defied expectations, transcending age and circumstance. It demonstrated that friendship can be found anywhere, with anyone, as long as there is a willingness to open one's heart and offer a helping hand. The story reminds us that even small acts of kindness can ripple outwards, creating a wave of positive change in the world. It encourages us to be open to new connections, to look beyond appearances, and to embrace the unexpected. It teaches us that friendship can be a powerful force for good, capable of healing wounds, mending broken hearts, and bringing joy to even the darkest of times. It is a story about the transformative power of love, compassion, and the enduring human spirit.